Hey there, Erika Cole, the church attorney here. I'm so excited that we're actually seeing a bit warmer temps. I wanted to hop in and share this quick message around a series of questions I got yesterday. We had our live Q&A with the Faithful Foundation's members who are in the All Access, and it was wonderful. I was able to answer all of their questions, and there were a number of questions about church bylaws. So I thought I would just spend a moment to address a couple of them. And also, I am finalizing a downloadable checklist. People love a good checklist that will help you as you navigate making sure that your bylaws meet the needs of your organization, but also that they meet the requirements that are anticipated for best practices. So I got questions like, if we are making changes to our bylaws, do they need to be filed with the state? Or do we have to notify the IRS? And the answer to that is no, we don't have to. Your bylaws are your internal governing document. Articles of incorporation, when you make changes to those, there's a formal amendment that needs to be filed, or amendment or restatement as the case may be, with the Secretary of State for wherever your organization's formed. But bylaws are internal, which can be helpful to make change, but that also means that those changes need to be made in accordance with your current bylaws, right? So that if your current bylaws indicate that there needs to be a 3/4 vote of the board, for example, or if it indicates that they need to be ratified by the membership, all of those are important considerations. Also got a question related to how do you know what needs to be included in bylaws? That's really where that checklist comes into play. As you know, there are significant changes that we're experiencing currently in our nation, and a part of the adjustment that I think a lot of organizations are going to need to make is the fiscal considerations or the financial considerations for the organization. So let me just summarize the answers to that question by saying sometimes there are external changes that happen that would require updates to your bylaws, because as we know, the Congress meets every year, the state legislature meets every year, so there are things externally, changes in the law that might impact the need to update your bylaws. There may also be changes internally, right, to your organization. Maybe your organization, your church has made a decision to change its name. Of course, that means that you're going to update your articles, and likewise the bylaws need to be updated. Maybe you're changing your protocols related to the board terms or the board composition in some way. So maybe even who gets to vote on certain things. There have been a number of changes where when I was raised in church, there would be a church meeting, you would vote on things. Now, many churches are formed such that the members, either they're non-members or they will define the members as the board. So the board is the only group that makes votes on things. So there may be external changes in the world and the law that prompt changes or the need to update bylaws, or there can be internal changes that prompt the update. So those are the two ways that come about. And I want to just mention a third. Even if neither of those things are pressing, you should, as good practice, review the bylaws periodically, and I would define that as every 2 to 3 years. Give it a real read through. What I've often found is that organizations, make changes as they go along the way, but they don't review how those changes might require updates to the bylaws. And so then unfortunately they are operating in a way that's inconsistent with their bylaws, and that's definitely problematic. You can especially see this when there's a significant vote on something, let's say to sell a property or to buy a property or to dismiss a leader. This is often when these things come out. Last question I'll answer is related to whether the senior pastor should be a voting member of the board. That's a question that comes up regularly. And I will say, one, look to your state statute. It may speak to that specifically. For example, there's some statutes that say specifically the senior leader or the pastor should be on the board. And then there are some states that are silent as to the point. I would say, number one, look at what the state requirement is. And then secondly, if you're a part of a larger denomination, look to any indicators there. And then thirdly, look to best practices in the nonprofit arena. And generally speaking, it is certainly okay for the senior leader to be on the board. In some organizations, they are a non-voting member of the board. So, all right, this has gone a little longer than anticipated, but I wanted to just cover this because there's so many questions that came up. We will probably be doing a more in-depth webinar, but that's what I wanted to share in this morning's walk and talk. Have a great one. Bye.